Good afternoon and welcome to the July 19th, 2023 City Council Work Session. Thank you for joining us in this virtual meeting format. For work sessions like this one where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling into one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. And thank you again for joining us. And with that, I formally call this work session to order, and I will turn it over to the city manager to introduce the first topic.
Thank you, Mayor. Your first work session is really intended to provide council with an overview and highlights of the work the Police Commission has been doing, so their work that they accomplished in FY23, as well as present you with their 24 and 25 work plan. So I know they're hoping through this work session to get consent on a couple of things. So their 24 and their 25 work plan, and also continuation of their law enforcement mental health and well-being committee. So they're going to present that. And with that, I will turn it over to Police Commission Chair Dallas Boggs. He's also joined by Vice Chair Jensina Hawkins and our AIC Police Commission Analyst, Holly Matthews.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. We can turn the Police Commission members.
Chair Anderson.
I'm going to first introduce our Police Commission members. We get that on screen. As far as the 8 members, and as you can see that we're all pictured there, we have myself as chair, Jensina Hawkins as the vice chair, Dr. Silky Booker, V. Nguyen, Bonnie Dominguez, Sean Shivers, Ian Winbrock, and Silver Mogart. Ian Winbrock has been replaced by William Parham. We have 2 city councilor liaisons on our commission, Councilor Jennifer Ye, Councilor Alan Zelenka. We have 1 person representing human rights liaison, and that's Scott Lemons. And then our Civilian Review Board liaison is Alan Lehman. And then we have our City of Eugene Police Analyst, Holly Matthews.
And Holly, just to note, your screen is not shared right now.
I understand, and we're working on that. I do apologize. We're having some technical difficulties on our end over here, and I do apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Can you see that now?
So they can't see that yet until we go to the.
Hold on a second. We're getting there, you guys.
It's not even going to do that first.
We don't want our mission statement.
We're getting that.
It's coming up with an error code. And do you guys have your PowerPoint in front of you, the copies that we provided?
I'm going to ask either Ellie or Cherish to pull up the PowerPoint because I think you provided it to us, Holly, if that's correct, and we can share it for you. You will have to tell us when to advance the slides, though.
I can do that.
We're getting an error on our end through Zoom.
Yep. We're strategizing and going to problem solve for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's something wrong with Zoom. It's okay. Actually, it might be better because we'll get to operate off of.
And we're on page 3.
They can't. There we go. What?
Nope,
Nope,
that's
nope.
mine.
Yep.
See, you're not doing it.
Okay. How do I make it share the right screen?
Page 3. That go up.
Thank you, Ellie.
Are we unmuted now?
Are we ready?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. Next, we have our Police Commission mission statement. The Police Commission recommends to the City Council, the City Manager, the Police Department, and the people the resources, preferred police alternatives, policies, and civilians responsibilities needed to achieve a safe community. We strive to create a climate of mutual respect and partnership among people and between people and the police department. And that helps to achieve safety, justice, and freedom for all people.
Next slide.
Next page. As a review of our fiscal year 2022-2023 highlights, we went over, we had 14 main things, and we went over officer wellness and mental health, a call center policy procedure and prioritization, gender inclusive and diverse language review, discipline matrix policy and procedure, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, community outreach and civic engagement in police policy and input, stops threshold, pepperball projectiles, hiring and recruitment, domestic violence and sexual assault, downtown safety, supervisor accountability, data review of stops and use of force, and review contractors of local nonprofits. And we had Cahoots and St. Vinny's. One of the highlights of 2022 and 23 was our officer wellness and mental health was a highlight because we as a committee created a subcommittee that we'll talk about a little bit later. And we also,
Next slide.
next page, gender inclusive and diverse language. We went over through one of our commissioners was very hard on this, Commissioner Winbrock, and we had a policy and procedure review resulting in revisions to include DEI language across all policies and procedures. Next. As far as in 2023 emerging topics, the number one emerging topic was chemical incapacitants 805 and impact weapons 807. The Civilian Review Board requested review of handcuffing and control holds policy 809. And we incorporation of House Bill 4208, clarification of use of chemical incapacitants, and we created policies of 805 and 807. Next page. In fiscal year 2023, other works performed. We had a Citizens Police Academy. Commissioners Bonnie Dominguez and Ian Winbrock attended a 10-week program to gain a better understanding of police policies. Next page. Other work we performed was community outreach. We had booths in the Asian celebration in July, and also the Black Cultural Festival in August. Next page. Next, I'm going to have my vice chair, Jensina Hawkins talk about the work that we did with our new subcommittee.
I'm the chair of the subcommittee for law enforcement, mental health and wellness subcommittee. One of the first things that we did was rename the committee from police officer, a mental health and wellness subcommittee, to law enforcement overall, to include dispatchers and forensic investigators and other folks within the Eugene Police Department who are affected by the work that we're doing. One thing I'd like to point out is that our subcommittee is currently formed of 4 members. One is former military, one is a current mental health, he's a peer counselor. He's also the chair of the Human Rights Commission, that's Scott Lemons, and former vice chair of the Police Commission, Bonnie Dominguez, are all participating on this committee with me. One of the biggest things that we've been able to do so far in the past couple of months was we provided a letter of support from the Police Commission for the Eugene Police Department to receive a grant to stand up a law enforcement specific employee assistance program to provide additional and enhanced mental health benefits to the Eugene Police Department. We've also been reaching out to other agencies that have current and robust wellness programs in place. So, for example, the Bend Police Department has some great insights that they've been happy to share with us. Another organization is actually the Kern County Law Enforcement, including parole officers. And the lady, the therapist that actually runs that particular employee assistance program, has been very happy to speak with the subcommittee and provide perspective on how they're doing it for a very large organization in the state of California. I've been privileged to participate in quite a few ride-alongs with Eugene Police Department and also some other law enforcement agencies to try to get information directly from the officers themselves as far as how we can assist in promoting their mental health and wellness. We've been working particularly on community awareness, and I think that's been effective. I also chaired the subcommittee for selecting a new commissioner to replace Commissioner Winbrock, and every advocate we interviewed actually referred to the importance of law enforcement, mental health, and wellness as that being a priority that they especially wanted to focus on. And we are also in the process of working with an organization here in Eugene to hopefully start up the city's first responder rest stop, as an area where police, fire, EMS, possibly cahoots can have a place to rest, breathe, have snacks, coffee, get some reports filed, etc. Chair Boggs?
Yes, we can go next to fiscal year 2024-2025 work plan. We had a retreat on a Saturday morning. A lot of work was done during this retreat. It was well attended, and we came up with our 10 priorities, and we voted on these things. And how we did it was all weighted. So when each person had 3 dots, and we went around and we came up with all the issues that the different things that the counselors felt was important. And then we would take our dots and go and weigh them, and then we would calculate those. And that was ran by Commissioner Shivers and Vice Chair at the time, Dominguez. And what came from that meeting, the following 10 items were identified during the May 6th Commission work retreat as areas of focus for the next biennial work plan. The items are prioritized from top to bottom with intent to remain flexible to support emerging issues. The top 10, I'll read these, are virtual policing, mutual aid policy 107, downtown safety, discipline matrix, recruit and retention, DEI, the ad hoc committee on police policy, communications with persons with disabilities, that's policy 370, employee performance evaluations, how often are they being done, strike and labor disputes, policy 313, emergent technologies. Next page. As we came up with our top 10, we also have our parking lot issues. these are 9 items that were identified as our parking lot items. They're items that are not a priority, but they're equally important for us to discuss. And in that, the next 11 through 19 were eternal EPD budget review, limited English proficiency services, employee assistance program, mental health crisis response 418, welfare checks, qualified, immunity, uniform DPSST numbers, officer response to calls, policy 416, search and inventories of detained persons, and that's policy 702. Next page. Potential items to discuss as time allows, because we came up with 27 different items that were important to everyone. Hate crimes, nonstop citations, call center policy and procedures, gender inclusive, DEI type work, EPED, contract review, flexible constraint devices, that's 806, storage of prisoners' property, policy 703, and non-criminal detox, policy 311. Next page. So that basically is our report to you as far as what we are going through. What we are interested in achieving today is seeking the council's consent on our work plan. And also we want to increase on the law enforcement, mental health and wellness subcommittee. We need an extension on that. Those are our 2 things.
Okay.
Do we have any? Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yes, I just want to thank you so much for this report. I think it's, when I think about how dependent we are as a city on volunteers who devote their time to do hard work, and this is very, very serious work, and it's really an important part of our holding ourselves accountable to our community and also making sure that we're providing the best services possible. So I really want to appreciate the 2 of you for your leadership and the whole commission for this very helpful report. And I am going to ask counselors if you would all turn your cameras on so that you're all at the top of my screen and I can see you as we have this conversation. Thank you very much. And so with that, I'm opening the floor to counselors if anyone has questions or comments.
And also, I just want to say, if there's any suggestions for things that we should be on top of, I am open to that as well.
Okay, thank you. Randy.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much for the presentation. I think this is good work. I really like the fact that there is focus on the mental health piece. This plagues our community in a number of areas, but in order to have good service, we have to have people that are able to have good mental health. So that this is something that I think it's important, and it saves on the back end from problems that can develop. So I really don't have any questions. I really have nothing else to add other than I appreciate your work on this and the time that you've put in, and it's obviously been a lot of time, and I look forward to the updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rowe.
Thank you. Mike.
Thank you, Mayor, very much. As the Police Commission's role is to advise council, but also to make recommendations of various sorts to the chief, I'd be interested to know with the report from last year and the work plan for this year, the chief's thoughts on the commission's work. I see him online there. I see the name, so that's why I should have given him a little fair warning here, but.
No fair warning needed, Councilor Clark. I'm used to your sneak attacks.
Yes, sir. All right, good.
No, you know what? I'm really pleased with where the commission's going, and especially as Councilor Groves articulated, the intentionality around talking about wellness and what that means for our staff has been huge. I can't say enough about Vice Chair Hawkins's energy and effort that she's put into this. She has done a ton of homework and has engaged me on a variety of different times and done those ride-alongs and really really is spending a lot of time thinking about how our people show up to be able to deliver this service as well as they possibly can be. We continue to have robust conversations at the table around policy language. That commission is designed to look at things from a variety of different ways, a 360-degree approach to how we do things, and we continue to get that good dialogue. And so, the work plan, they have a tendency to have a work plan and then get through a ton of work and then are kind of like, okay, what's next? What's next? And so they're starting to get into some things that I think maybe isn't necessarily specific policy work, but it is good dialogue that sets them up nicely to better understand the workings of a public safety organization that will inform future policy work. And so I'm happy to engage them in those conversations and kind of pull the curtain behind, back to see that there's not really any real magic behind what we do, but oftentimes is misunderstood. And so they really have spent a lot of time to better understand our business needs and how we do and the processes that we have. And so overall, really pleased with the commission and pleased with the relationships that we're forming with each one of the commission members.
Thank you.
I don't want to ask a controversial question, but I sometimes do. That the hard questions are what I see my job as. So in the last few years, not necessarily this report and this work plan, but in the last few years, have you as chief ever come to a place where you have elected not to put into play policy that was a recommendation from the police commission?
Probably. The answer is probably, and it wouldn't be an all or nothing type of approach. There's sometimes recommendations that they make. There'll be multiple recommendations they make to a policy, and if from my perspective, I feel like that erodes safety for officers, I may choose not to take that recommendation, but it's really infrequent. What happens more times than not around recommendations is, like any commission does, they have a tendency to want to get down into the operational weeds of how we do what we do. And I've been real clear that that's my purview, how we deploy resources, how we, the types of tools and supplies that we use to do our job. That's my decision to make. And what I would do is turn around and ask them to help me identify policy language to be able to utilize those things. But every once in a while, they get a little operational, which is understandable. Every commission I've ever been a part of or sat in on has a tendency to want to get down in those weeds. And so any pushback they get from me is really more around understanding what operationally is my decision making versus what their role is by ordinance, which is to inform and make recommendations about policy language as we try to implement those types of things.
Thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate your candor, and to the chair and vice chair and all the commission members, I really want to say thank you. And to echo the mayor here, I served on the police commission for 9 years, and it's not easy work. It's hard work. It's roll up your sleeves and really think through what the community expects. And so I thank you very much for all your hard work. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Hart.
Thank you, Alan, and then Emily.
Yeah, I too wanted to, I'm on the police commission, but I wanted to thank the police commission, all the members. We, as Dallas Buggs said, we spent a Saturday doing this hard work that Mike was describing, and I had a real big case of I don't want us going into that meeting and got there, and after a cup of coffee and all the dialogue and all the stuff we were doing, I got really excited. By the time I left, I was totally jazzed about the work that the police commission was doing and the way that the retreat went. And I thought it was awesome. I just wanted in particular to say thank you to Chair Boggs. This is his starting of his second term. He's done a great job as the chair, keeping us on track and moving forward, and just seen as new to vice chair, which brings a lot of energy. And in particular, Holly, who does a great job of supporting and great assistance to the commission, keeps us on track and helps us with all making sure we're doing the stuff we need to do. And then the chief and also the rest of the EPD that comes to the commission, because it's not just us talking, we're actually talking with EPD members. And so that is really important because this is the place where the public gets to discuss and dissect the internal police policies with the officers, and we make recommendations to the chief and he takes them or not, but most of the time he does, and because they're well thought through and sound policy. And I think that's a super important point, that this is the place where that public dialogue gets to happen, and because you don't get to see that very often. Not every city has a police commission. And I think that's important to recognize, and that this, along with the CRB and the police auditor, all of those things combined help us manage the police department, its policies, and help the chief and officers do a better job. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Councilor Zelenka.
Thank you. Emily.
Thank you. I'm mostly going to say ditto, ditto, ditto. I appreciate all the commission members. I do think this is one of the more challenging and time-consuming commissions. And I also think it's critically important for the dialogue and connection between the public and EPD. So any education or just communication that comes out of the commission, I really appreciate. I understand wanting to talk about operations. I do that all the time. Not my job, but then I just say, well, it's my policy to have good operations. So also totally appreciate the mental health aspect of it. I think being a police officer or involved in any way with EPD is really, really challenging, especially since the pandemic. Everybody's angry. And so behavior sometimes gets out of control. And things are really struggling. So I just want the department to know I appreciate them, but I also need the commission to keep things open and helpful. I was a little confused by the rest stop. I think it's a great idea, but at first I thought there was going to be a rest stop where police and fire and cahoots could bring people in crisis for the night. And then I thought maybe it was a place for the police to get a rest. So I think it's wonderful to have the chance to have a place to take a break, but also to communicate with whoever else is there. That's some good interdepartmental opportunities. I approve, continue on, and big gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Simple.
Pretty sure there's not going to be any donuts at that rest stop. Right, Chief?
You never know, Councilor Zelenka.
We could fix that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Can I say one thing before we?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the one thing that I want to say is, I'm very proud. I've lived in Eugene for over 36 years. And the business, Brenner's Furniture, as all of you know, had an incident where a gentleman chose to do some vandalism, and our store was shut down for 13 days. But that was something that happened, and those things happened. But the response and the reach out from the mayor, from the city manager, from the police chief at our store, to the city, and how the people who helped us repair it made me further proud of Eugene, especially downtown Eugene. So I just want to say thank you, Eugene, and just so y'all know that I will always look at this place as a great place, and I enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both for sharing that and actually for your perseverance and indomitability and getting your business back up and running and having, just having the confidence and the commitment that you do. So thank you for all of that. Alan, another comment?
Yeah, I want to make a comment about the work plan. I want the council to take note of two things. One, on page 9 is the work plan from last year. And you'll notice done, except for 2 in progress. So that's the amount of work that this group does. It keeps on track thanks to the folks that help us do that with EPD. But I think that's pretty impressive for our volunteer group. And then secondly, the way we did the retreat and what we came up with as the things that we are a high priority for issues to look at are, I think, the right ones. They're things that need review. So I think I would recommend a passage of this and moving forward with it.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask 2 quick questions myself before we move on to the motions, and a note to Councilor Groves that Matt is tied up and is monitoring this meeting, but not able to do seconds for you. So somebody else can step in. Great. I wanted to just comment on, in your upcoming work plan, one of the things that it includes is an update on the recommendations from the ad hoc committee on police policies. And I'm just wondering if, just in general, it looks to me like some of the things you've done are clearly in response already to those policies. And if you want to just take a second to just highlight what some of those pieces are that you've already looked at, that's an update on the ad hoc committee, because that's of great public interest.
Well, everything that the ad hoc committee has in their report are things. So we had that report. Many of the things parallel things we're already doing. As far as specifics, as far as that's something I can get back to you with an email on that.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight that work is for the public, that work is ongoing, and that your commission is very responsive to those, to some of those, looking into those recommendations and concerns. And the other thing is that I'm just wondering, on the subcommittee on mental health, if in your first few months of doing this work, if there's some sort of if you have any sort of top takeaways for what we need to look at, or is it too soon for that?
I would say my knee-jerk response to that is that it's too soon. What I am hearing overall, and not just from this agency, but from other agencies that I've interviewed as well, is a lot of it is the community outreach portion of it. In today's political environment, it's very contentious out there for an officer in uniform. And so part of the overarching mission is to make it so that an officer is still proud to don that uniform, that they don't feel that there's a target between their shoulder blades every time they walk downtown. I've heard several officers from different agencies talk about when they go into certain neighborhoods and they count the thumbs up that they're given with the wrong finger. And so a lot of what I want to do is make sure that the community is aware that the city of Eugene is prioritizing our officers' mental health and well-being, because healthy officers make good decisions, and good decisions prevents things from what we're seeing in other cities.
I think we're all in your debt for taking the lead on that work. It's just so incredibly important. So thank you so much. And thank you for that response. That's a helpful insight into where you're going with that work. So with that, I think there's we need a motion on the table, Randy.
Sorry, I had to unmute and then switch screens. I move to approve the Police Commission FY 2024 and 2025 work plan as presented in Attachment A.
Second.
Oh, there we go. All right, all in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. That passes, and none opposed. So,
Mayor, my hand's raised, Mayor.
Okay, that's great. 8. Thank you. Well, that has still a 7. We're still missing.
Lindsay's not here.
Yeah, Lindsay's not there. So thank you. That passes. And yes, Greg, comment?
We need the law enforcement mental health.
I was just raising my hand.
Oh, okay, I saw you. I think I got everybody. So is that, and does that, do we need a motion related to the extension on the timeline for the committee as well?
Yes, please.
Yes.
You're on mute, Randy.
When I pulled up the documents, it didn't have that second motion. An earlier version did, but the latest version did not. Does somebody have that they could put on the screen for me?
It's page 13. So per city bylaws, subcommittees cannot exist longer than 6 months without city council approval. So I'm seeking approval to extend the subcommittee for the next 2 years in alignment with our work plan that we've just presented.
Okay, let me pull that up. Page 13.
And Councilor Groves, I don't have that, or I would read it off to you.
I think our vice chair's language works on that.
Yeah.
Just say so moved, Randy.
I think you just,
Well, I'm on page 13. I'm not seeing it.
you know, Randy, I think you can just frame it as move to extend the timeline for the public mental law officer mental health committee.
It's a mouthful. It's okay, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I'm stumbling over that name, but
What was the name again?
Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Committee.
Move to extend the timeline on the Officer Wellness and Mental Health Committee.
Second.
For 2 years.
For 2 years.
Second.
okay, that'll do it. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that passes. Thank you very, very much. Again, thank you so much for your work and this thoughtful presentation and thorough report. We really appreciate what you bring to our community and to our work. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And with that, I think we'll make a transition to the next item on the agenda. And I will turn that back over to the city manager to introduce.
Thank you, Mayor. So we are going to have a work session on your operating agreements. We've done these over the years. We used to be in a rhythm of trying to come back from your breaks and jumping into this, but we have a number of items that we made some sort of pilot changes to. So what we're hoping to do today is to start to formalize several of the changes we made over the last couple of years. There are pilots, there's some council discussions, operational updates, and some changes in technology. And what I guess will be important is there's a lot in the operating agreements, and every time we start to try to formalize them, it usually opens up more. And so to the extent we can kind of incrementally make decisions and get through them, that'll be really helpful. And as a reminder, the operating agreements are really about how you work together. It's how you engage with each other. It's not necessarily about, sort of external processes. So I look forward to the conversation and where we go with this. And I think Katie Lasala, our recorder, is going to lead us through a discussion.
Thank you, Sarah. Before I start sharing my screen, I just want to draw attention for council to attachment C, which is page 50 of the packet. If you have the ability to open that up and follow along as we're going through, the presentation is a high-level summary, but that attachment C actually gives you the language that is currently in the operating agreements and then the proposed language changes. So that might help as we're discussing or walking through the slides for you to be able to see that. And I will share my screen. Going. Okay. All right. So as city manager indicated, today we will be covering the proposed changes to council's operating agreements, which was last updated by resolution in December of 2020. The discussion will include a summary of the following. So council will have the opportunity to adopt pilot changes that were previously approved, council will have the opportunity to adopt changes that were previously discussed but not piloted. There will be some options for clarifying or incorporating additional operational updates based on our processes that have changed. And then we're also making space for other requests that council would like to discuss. And kind of as city manager indicated, it may be helpful for this discussion to focus on the changes that will align council's operating agreements with the current practices. And if there are new ideas that require more in-depth discussion from council or deliberation, we would be happy to schedule a follow-up work session in the fall to bring that back. So the next 3 slides will be a summary of the changes. And as I mentioned, for specific details, you can either look at attachment C, which starts on page 50, or attachment B, which starts on page 38, which has the full operating agreements with the changes highlighted. So the first section we will be working through is section 1 on meeting requirements. Subsection 1.02 work sessions. The proposed language would actually allow for the length of the Wednesday work sessions to be adjusted as needed. And then the change would also flip the order of the work sessions and the public hearings on that 3rd Monday of the month. Sort of related to that, as part of that change, it would move the public hearing start time to reflect what we've been doing recently, which is starting at 5:30. And if there is a need for the work session to happen on that third Monday, it would happen after the public hearing had concluded. Section 1.05, public forum, actually moves the language, would move the priority goal consent actions to happen before public forum. Other proposed language changes would incorporate the current testimony sign-up and randomization process that we've been utilizing. And then it would finalize the length of the testimony for the public forum. Right now, we have that at 90 minutes, and that was based on a previously approved pilot. 1.06, the public hearings section, we have language that would add the ability to schedule presentations from advisory bodies during public hearing nights. And then in a similar change to the one that we would make in public forum, it would incorporate language that aligns with our current testimony sign-up and randomization process. Moving on to section 2, placing items on council agenda. 2.02 would actually remove the language regarding scheduling the poll item within 1 week. And then also would add language that requires information on the council goals and priority on the poll, which has been previously discussed by council. Section 3, the order of items on a specific date. These are more administrative changes, but I'm still going to walk you through them individually. So what was section 3.05 turns into 3.03, committee reports and items of interest. This used to take place during the work session, and the proposed language would align it with our current practices, which now takes place in the council meetings. Section 3.03 turns into 3.04 for consent calendar. This would actually clarify the difference between consent calendar 1 and other consent calendars. Section 3.04 turns into 3.05, public hearings giving a priority, is really just a number adjustment for this section because the other items had moved. We're not proposing any language changes in there. Section 3.06, action items, would clarify the order of action items on meeting nights, and then it adds a statement around priority goal consent actions. We do have a possible motion prepared if council would like to take action today. But before we kind of turn it back over to the mayor, I just want to reiterate that, we're prepared to provide more details because this was a summary. We imagine there will be a discussion around the individual language pieces. So I just want to highlight for you that we actually do have the language available in the slide deck. And I can pull that up if council, as part of the discussion, would like to see the language displayed, just to make that a little bit easier. And that's all I have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it back over to Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have been asked by staff if we could actually, before we go into full discussion, do a lightning round in which you each could just say which sections you have conversations. So we don't spend a lot of time on one section. It turns out really people have much more to talk about on a different section. So we're just trying to get a sense to pace out the meeting. So since Emily and Mike already have your hands raised, I'm just going to call on you if there's specific sessions you definitely want to talk about. Just if you just say that and we'll keep a list so we have a sense. Okay, go for it, Emily.
I want to talk about section 102.
Okay.
And I don't remember the number for the poll.
Okay. Okay. Mike? You're muted.
Sorry about that. I don't have in front of me the numbers. I apologize. The items that I would like to discuss are public forums, and we don't want to call them polls. What do we want to call them? Nominations for boards and commissions.
Oh, okay.
Process for that.
Okay. Okay. Jennifer?
I don't have anything to add to that list.
All right. Let's see. Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to add to the list, but I'm also interested in boards and commissions. I think there's some things we need to tighten up there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Greg?
I don't have any issues, Mayor.
All right. Let's see. Alan?
I don't have anything to add to that. I did on the boards and commissions. One of the issues that I wanted to bring up, and that's probably a longer conversation, so it's not for today. It's for, I guess we're going to come back in the fall and try to do some changes. But whether or not there should be a candidate, there's citizens should be able to be on two commissions at the same time. Okay. Was the that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
And then I actually went back and answered my own question that we put resolutions are treated the same way as work sessions or work session polls. We did that before. So time has no meaning anymore. So I forgot when we did that. Apparently we did it in the past.
Okay. I think I checked in with everybody. So
no.
Nope. Oh, Matt, sorry. Your camera's off, so I'm not seeing you. Yes, you have a...
Thank you. I can turn it on if you need me to, Mayor. But I'm
better, yes,
I'm in transit, so I'm trying to do hands-free. Nothing to add, but I do appreciate counselors who, in particular Mike, thank you, who have had a problem with how we nominate finalists for boards and commissions. I look forward to getting that right. To the satisfactory. Hopefully there's consensus, or at least a good majority of us moving forward as to how we sharpen our pencil around nominations to boards and commissions. So I welcome that conversation. I don't necessarily have a lot of heartburn over how we currently do it. I've made that clear, but I appreciate those who brought it up. So I'll add my voice to having that dialogue.
Okay, that is helpful. Thank you. So why don't we... I don't want to be too, it looks like the first section, meeting requirements, there are quite a few comments on that. So we'll just sort of maybe start there. The boards and commissions, let's kind of put that conversation to the side for the moment. So, all right, I have Emily and then Mike.
I have questions about 102. It says adjust meeting length. Does that mean the Monday night meetings? Does it mean work sessions? Does it mean both? Who who decides how long a meeting is or gonna be? Is it on the fly or is it beforehand so you can adjust things? Who decides as needed? What are the parameters about that? And also same thing for day as well as for length. I think that needs clarification as to what it includes and who it includes. It's kind of got a lot of power there. And then about the poll, we had it at 1 week. Now we've been doing 2 weeks. If we're going to remove the time frame, what are we having instead? It can't just be open-ended. So those are my concerns and questions at this point. And I don't know if there are answers to that or we're supposed to discuss it to clarify.
So I have one clarification, at least. I can speak to the question about whether it's the regular Monday night meetings that would be adjusted, and the answer is no. The change, as you can see on the screen, is actually to allow for the Wednesday work session that starts at noon. It will still be slated at 90 minutes, but the language change is to add the word generally to allow for a little bit more flexibility if council needs to extend. And then the adjustment for the day was related to that third Monday of the month, having a little bit more flexibility for council to have the work session, to not have it at all, or to have it following the public hearing, since that had been kind of what we've been doing for a little while. So those are the ones that I wanted to jump in on. I don't know if Brooke or Sarah, you had other comments to what Councilor Semple was asking.
And nothing further from me. Again, it's just aligns with your current practice more so than introducing new practices. And if you don't mind, Councilor Semple, we can if we can come back to the second question once we work through this one, we can pull that up on the screen and share that as well, if that works for you.
That's fine. I'm still a little confused about the meeting length and day, but I can talk to you about it later.
Okay. Mike?
I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Mayor. Emily asked all my questions, but my hand is up for the items that I raised. So I'm not sure how to address that in your queue here.
Okay, yeah, I'm not exactly, but so maybe we could go back. If there's more comment on Emily's questions, why don't we just move to her questions and then we'll move to Mike.
And I will just say really quick, I think we added the word generally to acknowledge that sometimes you vote to extend the meeting. That's really all it's there for. If you don't have to add that, you could just say it lasts 90 minutes and you can still vote to extend the meeting. So it was just meant to be really transparent.
Does that help, Emily?
Sort of.
Okay. All right. I don't know if there's other language that would be resolve this better for you, but okay. Any other comments on this first section? Any other questions from council? All right, Mike, why don't you go for your questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Mine were other topics, other items, rather than the ones that I raised, rather than this. Is that what you're asking?
Well, what I'm actually looking for is for people to go through the specific changes that have been listed here. If there are any questions or clarifications on the information here that you need council to respond to. And then if we're going outside of the realm of these changes, I want to do that later. So mine
were both outside of the realm of what had been proposed by staff. Mine to do with public forums. It was more about addressing the repetitive nature of several people who speak at public forums.
Okay. All right, well, you can go ahead and put that,
Cool. As an adjustment to this, I would like to add that since we keep a database of everyone who speaks, every time the staff randomizes it, we have a list of who's speaking. And I would propose that we limit participation in public forum only, not hearings, not anything else, just public forum on Monday nights, to 10 times a calendar year that someone may speak at a public forum, in an effort to limit the repetitive nature of folks who speak at every one of them all the time, 24 meetings in a year, and say, to my way of thinking, virtually the same thing. This is not directed at any topic or anybody saying anything specifically or their comments content in any way, so much as it seems to me that we often hear repeated endless number of times from similar people, and I don't know the value of that to council when we're hearing the same thing over and over and over again. So in an effort to try and limit time, which sometimes goes a little crazy at our public forum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have Matt, then Alan, and Randy.
Mayor, is it appropriate are we just building a wish list, or is it appropriate to comment on the proposal? Because I didn't hear a motion.
So we haven't put a motion on the table yet to accept these changes. I was letting people play this out a little bit, but I think just hearing what staff needs to do for this, that as this meeting continues, I will interrupt this at a certain point. So we go back and just vote on these changes and then open the table for other things that might come back to you in the fall. So. Okay. So what I don't want is staff to take direction from a colleague. No disrespect, Mike, that from a vantage point that I just fundamentally disagree with. And so the piece about limiting citizen engagement is not something that I find palatable, and so that's why I raised my hand to. But if we're not, I didn't hear a motion, so it's not appropriate to have a back and forth. So I'll remove myself from the queue. Yeah, I think that any new topic is something that we would bring back for further discussion at another meeting. So we're looking to complete this here. All right, Alan, and then Randy.
Yeah, I expressed similar concerns to what Mike did last time we had this conversation about hearing the same thing over and over again. The purpose of the public forum is to inform the council of issues and propose solutions. When we hear the same person say the same thing over and over again, that defeats the purpose, and so that's what we're trying to get at before. I made the proposal to limit the forum to 60 minutes, and as a way of doing that, to prioritize speakers that have not recently addressed the council. So if you had recently addressed the council, you fall to the bottom of the list. We run out of time. So that was a different way of dealing with the problem that Mike was talking about, and that I concur with. I'm not sure either of those they didn't get support before. I don't think they have support now, but that was my solution.
Okay, Randy.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree that there needs to be some level of limitation, but I would submit that rather than stifling public involvement, it actually enhances that, because we have people that don't get a chance to speak and their number isn't high enough to fit within the 90 minutes, when we're still hearing from people that we hear from virtually every time we have a public forum saying the same thing the same way. What I would be interested in seeing is some way to manage how many times you can speak about the same subject. I would not want to limit people to a hard number, because, if it's one issue for a couple of meetings and then they switch to another one. I mean, I still think, you know, having that opportunity to raise their voice is important. At the same time, when it gets to the point where they are excluding others because they know the system, I think that that creates a problem with access. Thank you.
Thank you. Manager.
While you are talking, it's interesting you're bringing up some of the things we talked about the last time. I'm also interested in how you feel like it's been going. So we've come a long way from the last time we had this conversation and you adopted this pilot to at least randomize and shorten people's time. If that feels like that's, I hear that some of you are going to want more and different, but are you overall feeling pretty good about where this has been going as well?
I guess I'd be interested in, I don't think we've had to cut people off from testifying
we have not, Mayor. It's been quite a while since we've had to do that for a public forum. Public hearings we've had to continue on to another night because of that, but public forum, it would have been sometime last year if we've done it since I started.
Yeah, I think it might be helpful to reflect back on that. As the manager said, we're in a pretty different, I think that the 2.5 minutes and the 90 minutes seem to have worked pretty effectively to get through a lot of testimony. I'm not sure it's the same problem it was last time we talked about it, but you know, there might be some more information that staff could come back with. Jennifer, go for it.
Yeah, so I appreciate that question, Sarah. I was not in favor of reducing it to 90 minutes. I had a lot of concerns about that. But to be perfectly honest, I think that things have gotten better. I don't think it'll ever be perfect. That's not my goal. I think that's unrealistic. I think we have to take some of the frustrations and inconveniences with the whole concept of asking for engagement. That's just what it comes with. And so I really feel like the changes that we made did make things better to an extent that I'm satisfied with the few things that I have to deal with that are frustrating. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay, that's helpful. Randy.
Just quickly, Mayor, thank you. I just want to make it clear what I'm bringing up. I think, you know, I expect to have my time taken up. I signed up for this like we all did. My thing is more around shutting people off without having a chance to speak. And I do remember some public forums where we ran out of time and not everybody got to raise their voice. At the same time, we did hear from people that we hear from virtually every week, saying the same thing the same way. In fact, I could shut my eyes and basically recite it for them. So, I mean, if we want to talk about access, let's talk about access. And access means getting the most people we can before us that we listen to as possible. And again, I'm not picking out any topic because I think it's on all sides. Maybe it doesn't happen that frequently, but when it does happen, it's very frustrating to those who have taken the time to sign up and wait through the full 90 minutes and not get their day to be heard. So that's where I'm coming from. Again, this is not topic specific. This is just in general looking at how do we make this system as fair and accessible for the many. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I point taken, and I guess we can come back and talk about this. I would like to, at least before we go on to other topics that you want to bring up, if you're prepared to put a motion on the table for these amendments, Randy, that we do that, and then we have a little time if people want to talk about boards and commissions and other things.
Thank you, Mayor. My button was sticky there. Move to direct the city manager to place on an upcoming consent agenda a resolution adopting. Wait, we're not ready for this one yet. You're talking about that specific section, correct?
Well, I haven't heard any,
You're talking about 1.05
yeah,
public
well,
forum.
and
This-
I am open to anything else the first section was the section which people asked for discussion. If there's discussion on other pieces of this, then I'm open. We've kind of,
If we're ready for the full thing, I'm fine making that motion. I just want to make sure I'm putting the right thing out there.
I had a few counselors who wanted to discuss that first section. I have a few counselors who didn't want to discuss anything else. And I had a few counselors who wanted to talk about boards and commissions. So if there's something else within these proposed changes that councils need clarification on, then this is the moment. And then I think we can put that on. And Brooke, maybe you can clarify.
Yeah, I just wanted to flag, we hadn't gotten to section 2.02, which was requested by Councilor Semple.
Oh, I am sorry. Thank you. I did forget that. Okay.
Did I get that right, Councilor Semple? This was the.
Okay.
So Mayor, if I could suggest, could we get through that before we start?
Oh,
with the motion?
yeah,
Okay.
that was my mistake. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Emily's 2.2. My apologies. So Emily, do you want to restate your question there, or Brooke, are you clear on what that discussion is?
Restating the question or helping, we can help to.
I think I must have missed something because it does have the 2 weeks of it, and I was somehow thought that had been removed. It's
Yeah.
not so good not having a print. So thank you.
Yeah, it just modified when it put on the agenda
Right.
as opposed to the length of the poll open.
Okay, so you're clear, Emily. And Mike, do you have a comment on this?
Yeah, yes, Mayor, thank you. I'm reading through what it says, and so this is essentially a change from 1 week to 2. Is that what I'm understanding? Brooke?
So I can clarify. So the current language in your operating agreements indicates that after a poll is completed and council's weighed in, if it's been approved, it's placed on your agenda within 1 week. That doesn't really reflect the way that it's currently playing out. So this is acknowledges that it takes more time than generally a week to get this onto the calendar. And so that will, removing that prescriptive language can enable staff to come back at a time when they have adequate ability to prepare for the work session. So it's better aligning with the current practice. So
I would like the council to have that choice either way. So I may vote against the motion with regard to this specific change. I think it should actually be a part of the poll that delineates how quickly the work session should take place, because you could have an important issue that's high in priority, but not necessarily urgent in terms of timeliness. And, you know, could happen within a few weeks whenever it can fit in, and that's great. But if there's something counselors want to respond to quickly in the community, I kind of want that to still exist in a capacity so that, because the only people that have input on when the agenda happens are the mayor and the manager. So I want council to have a place where they can at least have some control or input on that, other than, you know, a motion at the tentative working agenda.
I could just address one piece of that, which is that the council poll that we're currently using still will include preferences related to the timing. So council will still have a chance. The 3 categories that currently exist there are prioritize over other items, time sensitive, schedule as soon as possible, and not time sensitive, schedule when time permits.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Alan?
Yeah, as a partial author of that work session poll, I was going to make that comment that it actually does say that, Mike. So you can like circle it and then highlight it, but then you have to lobby the mayor and city manager to get on the agenda, make sure they understand the import or the urgency of it. But the reason this language is in here in the first place is because work session poll items languished in the parking lot sometimes for a very, very long time, like over a year. And so I don't like that it's completely back to uncertain when it gets placed on the agenda. I understand the nature of some poll actions take some time to figure out and get the staff work done to do a presentation or have a discussion at council. But I don't like the idea of going back to where this is just completely open-ended and stuff sits in the parking lot indeterminately. Is there a different way to do this so that maybe it's not within a week, but maybe it's within a month or 2 months that it gets on the agenda? And if it needs to get moved or punted or extended out, that can be done. But the problem was that things weren't getting on the agenda.
I think we still have that. There's still, and I've talked about some of you about this one-on-one and with the mayor, because you still have work session items that get the approval of the poll and are not hitting a priority level. They might be a priority for one of you, but just in terms of all the things you're working on, they still sort of linger out there. So, I mean, what you pointed out is exactly what happens. If there's a piece that says it has to land on the agenda, it can land on the agenda, but it won't be a real date. And so what happens is you have community members that start getting excited about the thing that's going to come in September, when the reality is it's not going to be able to make it. And so what's happening right now is the practice we're doing right now is not getting things on in a week. It doesn't happen like that. I mean, it may be listed, but it's not scheduled. So I hear your concern, and I think there are ways we could think about, is there a way to, with some frequency come back and kind of prioritize these as a council? Like, these are the 5 things that are lingering. Which ones need to really come first?
Right. And, commercial setback's a good example. It sat on the list forever. And finally, I just said, okay, I'm just going to make a motion. And I made a motion and it passed unanimously. So that's the concern. So how do we avoid that, Sarah?
I wish I had a really good, clean answer for that. I mean, that was an unfortunate situation where, you have the same people, and we could have that happen again, right? We have the same people working on the same teams working on multiple work session polls, and it just takes time to get through them. And if at any time one of you gets frustrated and says, I'm just going to put a motion forward, you have the right to do that. It's hard. So, I mean, I think working together to manage your expectations and the priorities is a key part of this job. And I don't think we've had as many issues, although I do still think, and there'll be a couple that I note in my evaluation around things that feel like they're taking too long.
Well, maybe instead of just deleting it all together and just saying it should be on the future council agenda, maybe we add a qualifier in there that's somewhat objective, but somewhat subjective, something like on a future council agenda within a reasonable time. So the counselor can say, this is no longer a reasonable amount of time. It's been on here for 6 months or a year. So maybe there's some kind of qualifier in there instead of within a week. I agree. We don't do it in a week. We really never have. And that's not even realistic. But maybe there's a way to do that. Maybe that could be a friendly amendment that instead of within 1 week, it's, we don't have a motion yet. Do we? No, we don't.
Okay, thank you. Mike, comment?
Yes, manager, council still has the ability at any time to pull under consent items, can pull the item for the what am I thinking of? The tentative working agenda, and make a motion to move an item up to a next week or 2 weeks from now. We have that ability. Am I correct? and we can designate specifically that the council, if the majority agrees, designates a certain meeting on a certain day for the discussion of a particular agenda item?
Yeah, I think you have a lot of power to do that on any given meeting night. I mean, unless Catherine says, no, you don't. I mean, the council,
Right.
you have the ability to do that.
Or
And
to
then it's
add an
just a
item.
matter of a discussion about whether we have the ability to actually get the work done to the level you would want. So
I guess what I'm saying is, but with regard to authority, the manager and the mayor decide what the agenda will be, but the council as a whole has the authority to change that at any given time that they want to. The majority wants to vote to say, no, we want to do this first and that thing some other time, correct?
I think you're correct.
Correct, because as you noted, the tentative agenda is included and you approve it on your consent agenda. So you can pull that like any of your other items and amend it or add to it.
So as soon as a poll has 4 votes, it's going on the tentative agenda. It just may not be actually scheduled, might be in a parking lot. And any 5 counselors could say, we want that one next week or whatever day, correct? With a motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
You know, I would also say before we go farther on this, that this is also an opportunity for council leadership. I mean, we have a monthly meeting with the city manager and the mayor and council leadership. And so it is an opportunity. Also, we do look at the things that are on the agenda, and we do talk about what's complicated, what's a priority. So there is a sort of a regular check-in also for those things that may be in a parking lot for a while for council leadership to discuss that. So, you know, I think there are multiple avenues for council to make it clear if something feels more urgent than another item that's on the agenda. So good conversation. All right. Yeah. Sarah, manager.
Sorry, at the risk of maybe being too bold. I mean, part of what happens and that we try to manage on this end of it is the culture of the council. And my time that I've been working with the council, not in this role, but in all of the roles, has usually been when a work session poll comes out, for the most part, most of you are willing to have the conversation, and you'll say, yes, willing to have that conversation, but it may not be a priority for the majority. And that's, to me, that's the part where the more we can tighten up, yes, this is a priority and I want to have that conversation, the faster stuff lands on the agenda. And that's the part I just haven't quite figured out.
Yeah, Alan.
This is slightly different. When I was reading what it says, with an individual reminder after 5 days, a majority of the council responds in the affirmative. I thought it only took 4 votes to get on a work session approved.
That's correct.
There's that sentence at the end that says a majority in this instance is 4 counselors.
Oh, that's kind of weird language. Why don't you just make it say, if four counselors respond in the affirmative, and then it'll delete that sentence. I think the majority is confusing because that's not a majority. By definition, it is internally to this paragraph, but that's goofy.
If there's a vacancy, this language makes sense.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on these proposed changes for this draft? Yes, Emily.
I think it needs to stay 4. It doesn't have to be 5. That is a majority. It's kind of like talking with 5 counselors outside of a meeting. So anyway, I would vote for it to stay 4.
Yeah, I think Alan was not objecting to the 4 number of councils, just the way it was framed, so it was clear.
I think that's fine. Put 4 instead of a majority and eliminate the last sentence.
Okay, are we clear on the proposed changes here and ready for
No, Mayor, I'm not. Can you repeat that, please?
Well, you have the proposed changes in this document. The potential motion is just to approve these proposed changes, probably with a couple of these adjustments that have been suggested. So if the conversation is complete, then I'll have a motion on the table. If it's not complete, then people can raise their hands.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right. Councilor Groves, are you ready to put a motion on the table?
Well, let me make sure I'm clear on what that motion is. Are we voting at this point just on 2.202 or are we voting on the whole thing?
Whole thing.
Okay. Even though we haven't talked about boards and commissions.
Well, because I'm assuming that boards and commission is going to take a slightly longer conversation time than the 10 minutes we have and a little more thought. So
for fall then.
So for fall, exactly.
Okay, great. I just wanted, like I said, I just wanted to clarify what we're voting on. So I will make the motion then.
Pause 1 second, because the motion's going to end with what's outlined in attachment B. And what I think I'm hearing is you also want us to include the couple of things you just talked about. So you might need to add some words, or somebody's going to need to make a motion to change those two areas.
I could do that as a friendly, Randy, if you want.
Okay, thanks.
Why don't we do that? Let's just get it out and then we can wordsmith it before we do the final vote. Move to direct the city manager to place on an upcoming consent agenda a resolution adopting the proposed changes to the council operating agreements as outlined in attachment B.
Second.
Okay, Alan, did you have a friendly?
Yeah, could you go back to that previous slide that has the language on 2.02? There it is. So instead of, so the second to last the last sentence would be deleted, and the now new last sentence would say, instead of a majority of council responding in the affirmative, should say if 4 councilors respond in the affirmative, and the item shall be placed on a future council agenda within a reasonable time.
Perfect. Is that?
The maker of the motion accepts that.
Okay, and I was a second, so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, with apologies not being the second, Mayor, it's difficult in transit.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Thanks, Matt. Emily, a question?
I'm just concerned about how loose it is, how we don't know how much time that is. How do you define reasonable? It's going to be different for every subject. So that gives me a little concern as to what reasonable is. Do have the bottom of the poll to check off what time. And if we put, 2 weeks, 1 week, that's kind of restrictive. So I'm not sure how to deal with that, but I am concerned about it not being clear.
Okay. Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. I think I prefer we just go with it as is. And if it doesn't seem reasonable to the work session poll author, they can take the Zelinka method and just bring it up as a motion.
Okay. All right. So the motion is on the table. There's a friendly amendment that's been accepted. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you. That passes unanimously. And then we have just a couple of minutes. So I know that we want to come back and talk about boards and commission nominations. And I'm just wondering if there are other pieces that you all want to make sure staff is aware of for that coming back in the fall. So I'm just sort of opening the conversation quickly to, yes, could we look at some other aspect of these operating agreements? So if there are any.
Did we need to vote on the main motion?
We did.
I thought we voted on the amendment.
It was a friendly. So
okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other topics that you just want to alert staff to? This is not your only chance to do this. If something occurs to you, you can always reach out. Yeah, Matt.
Well, it's ironic because I'm participating virtually, but I do want to have a larger conversation with colleagues around in-person attendance, recognizing fully that for health reasons, for work-related reasons, that there's a whole, travel, there's a whole host of reasons why we may not participate. I'm not talking about work sessions. We're all virtual right now. But for our Monday night forums, it would be nice. Let me just frame it this way, Mayor. It's really nice when there's a full complement of counselors attending, and I want to be really sensitive to the topic because I also recognize that there are legitimate health concerns and health issues, and I want to be sensitive to those. But I think that it's worth having a conversation about in-person expectations.
Okay, thank you. We can add that to the list. Alan?
Yeah, beside the discussion about should someone be on more than one commission, I want to make sure this topic of the agenda work session getting on the agenda is also we can talk about that in the fall.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay. Any other particular concerns? All right. That was very helpful. Thank you all for that conversation. Thank you, staff, for all your responses to that. And with that, look at that. You have an extra 3 minutes in your afternoon. So thank you all. We are adjourned.